Set your project directory. Click on the project directory button. I'm going to open up a folder called Control Hierarchies. Click Open to set your directory. We're going to go to File, Load a scene from the Scenes folder called Control Hierarchy Setup. So you have a really cool monster arm here. I've already placed bones in. There's hidden muscle bones and everything. Make it move properly. But our big problem is when we want to animate these fingers, we get to look through a gigantic list which won't even fit on the page to animate our fingers. So what we're going to do is create what's known as a control hierarchy, so we don't have to move through a giant list of bones that we shouldn't touch, like these muscle bones and the shoulders and the support bones, and just use our animation controls. So let's close the root for now and click into Setup. I'm going to add a null called arm underscore hand controls R. Click on plus button to add that. We stick it on the bottom of the list here. Switch to a top view. We'll zoom out. We'll position this right on top of the wrist bone. Just the A key to center our selection. Go to a front view. Let's move it up on Y. And just for fun, let's go to a top view. Let's orient it exactly like the wrist bone. Now let's highlight the arm bone deform. Let's add a bone to that. We'll parent this to our hand controls R. Let's zoom out so you can see the full size of the bone. We'll just make it about the size of a control, how big we want a control to be. Now let's check a few settings in the bone block here. For one, we don't want it to align Z to parent. We want to change the slip to 1 so it has 0 influence over the mesh. We don't want this bone distorting any of the mesh. It's strictly a control bone. We're going to be attaching expressions to it and using it to control other bones. Let's head into the File tab, open up Multiply Items, and we'll clone this bone 4 more times. 1 for each finger. Let's go back into Setup. We'll just start with bone 1. Open up the rename block. Just name this one Thumb Control R. Now it's imperative that we keep all of the axes zeroed out. There shouldn't be any data, no numbers in here at all except for 0. This is important when we're doing channels because any extra numbers will complicate our expressions. Let's head into the Command tab. We'll create a new variable. I'm going to call this one arm align thumb control R. We have thumb control R selected, so we're going to look for an expression called align. Just right there. First argument, we want thumb control R to align itself to thumb R. 1 to turn the expression on. Right click to add that to the expressions field, and you'll see it aligning to the thumb. Now let's select another expression called move to, just down here. Double click on that. Has the same fields. We've already filled them in. Thumb control. We'll move to thumb R. 1 for on. Click on the end of this expression and add the plus symbol. Then right click on the move to here to add that to the expressions field. Now we'll set this to operate after IK. I'll show you in a minute. Switch to a perspective view. We'll zoom in on here. Now let's start linking our bones in the bigger list to our control. Let's create a new variable called arm thumb control curl R. We'll highlight bank on our thumb control. Down here in the buffer field, we'll right click to add that to the expressions field, which is bank. Then we'll middle mouse click and highlight thumb 2R, make sure the pitch axis is selected, open up the channels block, and add that as a channel. Change the channel modifier to additive so that when we highlight our control and bank it, the thumb moves over. Let's create a new variable. While we have our thumb control highlighted, let's select heading. We'll call this one arm underscore thumb control heading R. And right click on the buffer field, add the expression, which is our heading we have currently selected. We'll middle mouse click on thumb R, make sure heading is highlighted, and we'll add that as a channel. Change the channel modifier to additive, so that way when we highlight our thumb control and rotate it on heading, our thumb moves on heading as well. Let's highlight that. We'll copy it down. We'll change this one from heading to pitch. Pitch R. Change the expression to read pitch. Type in pitch in lowercase. Enter. Then we'll highlight the heading channel. Down here on this last pull down, we'll select pitch. So that way when we highlight our thumb control, we can pitch it down, and bank controls the second joint. Let's close these down. We'll put align thumb control on the end. So what happens is we have our bone, which reads 0 on all of these axes. Feeding information into channels into our hierarchy here, our thumb joints. And then after those have already been keyed in, it aligns our thumb control to the hand as if we'd actually added a bone there in the hierarchy. Let's do this once more for the index finger, just to make sure you know what I'm talking about. Let's go into Setup, highlight Bone 2, let's name this one Index Control R. Let's click into Command, close the channels window here. We'll create a new variable, call this one arm underscore align index control R. Now we still have the move to expression here in the pull down menu, so let's just change the arguments here to read index control R. Instead of thumb R, we'll highlight index R. Right click to add that. Click on the end, add the plus symbol, and we'll take another shortcut. We'll right click and add the move to again, but we'll highlight the move to portion and just type in align. Change that to after IK. Let's add a new variable. Call this one arm underscore index control heading R. While we have our index controls highlighted, select heading. Go down here, right click on the buffer to add it to the expression. Middle mouse click on index R, highlight heading, open up the channels block, add that as a channel. Change the channel modifier to additive. So when we highlight our index control, it also moves our other finger. Let's highlight this whole expression here. We'll copy it. We'll change this one to pitch R. Change the expression. Just type in pitch. Highlight our channel. Instead of highlighting heading, we'll highlight pitch, so that when we pitch our main control, it also pitches our finger joint here. Let's make a new variable. Call this one arm underscore index control curl R. So when we head into animate, we can close down this entire hierarchy. We can control the fingers just by clicking on our smaller list of control bones. Go to File. We're going to save this Messiah scene as Control Hierarchy A.fxs.